Today, as the country goes to poll, the question of reinstating full statehood to Jammu and Kashmir and allowing for the electoral process to resume after 6 long years looms large. It is a similar situation that is found in Ladakh. Sonam Wangchuk, a scientist and a local activist, has been voicing the demands of the people of giving the right to vote to the people of Ladakh. There's another point to reflect upon is whether the revocation of Article 370 in Kashmir will guarantee a win for BJP politically. Should the government of India even expect that it gets political victory and mileage for the national good that it has done to the people of Jammu and Kashmir? While it does boil down to good governance and welfare of people, translating to votes for the leaders who work hard for all this to happen, but even if the BJP were to lose the Lok Sabha constituencies from Jammu and Kashmir or the expected assembly elections, it should not take away from the good work the government has done by transforming the state of affairs in the valley. There has been a lot of commotion and talk that has been brought back to AFSPA, the Armed Forces Special Powers Act, after the Union Home Minister Amit Shah has spoken about it once again. What is it that is going to translate after the statehood is reinstated in Jammu and Kashmir and in some time in the future in Ladakh as well? How will civilian aspirations then be allowed to be accommodated after statehood is reinstated? How can the political process once again be started in Jammu and Kashmir and then in Ladakh? And of course, it then boils down to the law and order situation, how lesser and lesser of the armed forces and the central forces will have to deploy their men, deploy their personnel in Jammu and Kashmir, and how the domestic affairs of the valley of Jammu and Kashmir and Ladakh can largely be taken control of and managed by the local law and order forces. Joining me on the telecast right now is Major General Gigi Dwivedi. Quickly, a response from you, sir. Of course, we start off with AFSPA. Now, this has once again gotten a lot of political reactions. There are regional political parties commenting on this, saying that the BJP has only made this remark in wake of the upcoming Lok Sabha elections. But the larger question, which I'm going to steer away the conversation from and come to the important aspect of bringing back normalcy to Jammu and Kashmir. And AFSPA is part of revoking it, thereby bringing in normalcy, bringing in the state of affairs to how they used to be in an ideal situation in Jammu and Kashmir is the focus point. And how long a duration will it take for India, for our forces, for our government to ensure that reinstatement of statehood happens?
Well, Megha, first and foremost, we must understand that Armed Forces Special Power Act is brought in when the situation on the ground is not within the capability of the local law enforcing agency. And at the same time, when the local law of the land is not adequate to restore normalcy. So that's time the armed forces are brought in. Now, armed forces to operate with impunity and without getting into legal complications are given a protection by way of Armed Forces Special Power Act, which gives them certain amount of powers to search and also to carry on certain amount of operations to bring in normalcy. Now, that is the situation that prevails on the ground. Means basically, you have the ground situation which is hugely disturbed. And I have operated in all the 3 difficult areas of India. Northeast, I was the division commander. Here in Baramulla, I had done multiple tenures, last one in 2000 as brigade commander. Now, these were the situations. The ground situation was, I would say, disastrous. And that's where you bring in the armed forces and also the Armed Forces Special Power Act. Now, over the years, this situation on the ground has improved, especially over last about 5-6 years, when Article 370 was brought in, the union territory was created, the central was direct governor, the Jammu and Kashmir region, and therefore you find that gradually situation improved. And I was in Valley only about 3 months back, And I can vouch from my personal experience that situation is slowly turning to normal. But it's too early to
Okay.
call it a victory because lot needs to be done until the elections are held. New government comes in, the complete administration passes into the legislators. That's the time we'll be able to actually gauge as to what is the ground situation really is. But
Okay.
for the time being, it's too early to call victory or too early to say that Jammu and Kashmir region, especially the valley region, has come to the normalcy.
Okay.
There you go.
Dr. Ramesh Raina, quickly a response from you, particularly with regards to the repeated demands that have been made by the people of Jammu and Kashmir, by political leadership, talking about how there is a need for Jammu and Kashmir to hold the assembly elections. It's been 6 long years since the last assembly elections took place. We are also talking about normalcy that seems to have been restored in the valley after the revocation of Article 370. When the Union Home Minister speaks about AFSPA being revoked in the near future, how near are we talking about? When we talk about some sort of a semblance of normalcy that is being witnessed in Kashmir, how close are we to the reality and the practicality of things on the ground?
Thank you, madam, for giving me an opportunity to speak. You see, we have to understand Kashmir is at a critical juncture of transformation. And this transformation is both political, ideological, and emotional. In the sense that we have seen few things happening in the past which normally nobody could have imagined ever, at least not me in my lifetime, that the situation will come to such a pass. Like the Honorable Prime Minister visited, and it was a huge wait for him, and people waited endlessly to hear Honorable Prime Minister. And earlier we used, whenever any political functionary or high official would intend or would visit Kashmir, there would be bands, hartal, so on and so forth. Therefore, we have to see it from the context. But there's a difference between normalcy and peace. When we talk of normalcy, then obviously we are talking about that what is happening in Kashmir is a mere law and order problem, and this has to be handled by the law and order agencies like police. And when we talk about peace, because when we talk about peace in Kashmir, it has a different definition in the sense that Kashmir is not a normal state. It's a border state. We have been facing insurgency all these years. We are yet to conquer. We are yet to score a victory. No doubt is down, but it's not out altogether. We have to understand it from a different perspective also. You see, we have seen hybrid terrorism is still active. Hybrid terrorism is not totally gone. Very recently, only few months back, we saw another attack. And there continues to be a constituency which is called an anti-minority constituency who thrive on killing Kashmiri Pandits, non-Muslim Hindus, and non-Kashmiri Hindus there in the valley of Kashmir. Therefore, it is probably premature to say that we will remove AFSPA altogether, because it might create a psychological disadvantage to the non-Muslim minorities in Kashmir. And it might go to the advantage of those people who were lying low because they feel that AFSPA is not there, and they might act in a different manner. Therefore, it is a challenging time for all of us. But one thing goes to the credit of the government of India, one thing goes to the credit of the Honorable Home Minister, that whatever he's talking about and whatever he says, he's saying it and he's talking it on the basis of the success that they have achieved in the valley of Kashmir, which is too. We have also to see that there is a youth, there is an aspirational class which identify with the government of India, which identify the peace process initiated, which identify with Sabka Vikas, Sabka Saath, Sabka Vikas and
Yes.
Sabka Vishwas.
Yeah,
And
okay. But also talking about, when you talk about civilian aspiration, when you talk about youth aspiration, we are also talking about the political process that needs to move forward. There also is talk about how there have to be elections, local level, state level and Lok Sabha level, to allow for people to use their franchise, to exercise their franchise, to vote the leader that they want to be elected to run their state, to run their local region, to run their panchayat. So Kuldeep, yeah, fair enough. Sajjad Kargili also on the telecast with me, and Sajjad, that has also been the demand of the people of Ladakh as well. Now, there have been agitations. We've seen activist Sonam Wangchuk, who has been on a fast for several days. He has only broken it yesterday. But the demand continues that why is Ladakh not being provided statehood after the revocation of 370 happened? Kuldeep Khoda, if you could respond here, and my question with regards to, I'm going to ask you particularly, I want to know from you about AFSPA and what's the ground situation right now. Is the condition, is the environment conducive in Jammu and Kashmir to allow for armed forces to withdraw completely?
The Home Minister's statement has to be viewed in the context of the improved situation in J&K, especially in Kashmir. The situation has vastly improved. It's not only the terrorist incidents which have come down, but the overall feeling of security, the feel-good factor among the general population of Kashmir is already there. And it is being witnessed in the form of normalcy of the business, in the running of businesses, the tourism, and all other parameters which go with the normal conditions in any part of India. But having said so, we cannot.
Please go ahead, Kuldeep.
Are you able to hear me?
I can.
Okay. But at the same time, it cannot be all of a sudden that the forces which are operating there in the CI grid, the counter-insurgency grid, they can be removed. It has to be a gradual process. The tapering has to be there. The dilution has to be there. And obviously, the AFSPA, or for that matter, the armed forces have at some point of time to move out after complete restoration of normalcy. But at the same time, we should be aware of the fact that Pakistan has not given up its intentions. Pakistan is embroiled in a lot of internal turmoil. Once the situation stabilizes in Pakistan and army gets to do what it wants to do, they are most likely to resume their activities across the border. And before we go further into dilution of the armed forces from the valley especially, and in Poonch Rajouri sector of Jammu, we have to be sure about few things, including the sealing of the border. By sealing, I mean that it cannot be completely sealed, but the grey areas which have been identified in view of the recent incidents in Poonch and Rajouri, and also in border areas of Kashmir, those areas have to be addressed properly. Then beyond that, we have to be gradual in the process of dilution of the security grid. You know, the exercise for AFSPA was carried out earlier also. It has been a regular demand of people and also of the politicians. But beyond that, we have to view it in the context of the ground situation. The ground situation has improved, and the exercise should start now after identifying particular areas. Like in 2011, we had identified areas of Srinagar and Ganderbal districts, and some police station areas of other districts also. Likewise, in Jammu, we can have the AFSPA removed from almost all districts except Poonch and Rajouri, and maybe some areas of Doda and Kishtwar. So the exercise should begin to restore confidence among the people and to supplement the claim, and which is the right claim. This is not an artificial claim of the government, that the situation has vastly improved.
Yeah,
and
because when the government of India official figures come out that from a large number of cases where there were stone pelting incidents that had been reported some years ago, the stone pelting incidents have come to zero. There have been, I think, hundreds and hundreds of FIRs that have been lodged against overground workers and underground workers, and a number of youth who have been given opportunities by providing them government jobs, by providing them recruitment in the armed forces, in the Jammu and Kashmir Police Department. So this goes on to show that there is a movement towards normalcy in Jammu and Kashmir. How fast-paced it is can be anybody's opinion over here, but how soon is soon enough for AFSPA to be removed is something that will have to be taken into consideration, with the law and order forces to come together along with the political class to sit down and finally make a decision.
Madam, you hear me?
Yes, Dr. Raina.
See, what I am trying to tell you is that I just want to add to what Mr. Khoda said.
Dr. Raina, I'll have to interrupt you. We are not able to hear you. There's bad internet connectivity there. We'll try to figure that out. But Major General Dwivedi, the same question to you. The observation that I made, the decision that will have to be made will have to come not just from the political class, but also a report being given by the Jammu and Kashmir Police, by the armed forces, to make a calculated decision.
Absolutely, Megha. When you take a calibrated review of the situation, it has to be holistic one. It has to be from the armed forces, from the local police forces, from the people, and also from the administration, because it has to be a holistic decision. It cannot be just based on few indicators. Point number one is that yes, situation is improving. It's moving toward normalcy, but yet it is far from normalcy. I think there is a very uneasy calm, and still the terrorists, the militants have the capability to disturb peace. Well, they are lying low, they have been suppressed, but they have not been eliminated. The second point is, as brought out by one of the panelists, that Pakistan's strategy of proxy war has not been given up. It's very much there. Only thing is that there is a shift of weight from the north to the south of Punjab, but they are very, very active. The third point is, only once the elections have been held, and they have been held peacefully, the new government has come into place, they have stabilized, only then we will be able to make out whether the Armed Forces Special Power Act needs to be now revoked, and also whether how far the armed forces can be diluted. Because at this moment, the J&K local police forces are not in position, so they are not capable at this time to handle this situation. Therefore, it has to be a gradual process. We have to wait and watch and keep seeing how this situation is improving. Well, the trend is there. We are moving to normalcy, but we are far from normalcy. It's too premature at this time to talk about Armed Forces Special Power Act being revoked. I think it will have to be done very gradually, and it can be done certainly, and it will depend how the ground situation improves and how the political dispensation are able to deliver after the elections. Megha.
Okay. Kuldeep Khoda, I'm going to come back to you, and also I don't know how easy or difficult it is going to be to answer that question, because this relates to politics. In terms of a lot of speculation being made with regards to whether the ruling government at the centre will be able to win the Lok Sabha constituencies in Jammu and Kashmir after revocation, or the fact that speculation rife that the BJP government is allegedly wanting to hold on to the decision of not reinstating statehood to Jammu and Kashmir and not holding assembly elections, simply because it doubts on winning elections if the elections were to held this time around. The larger question over here, while this is in the benefit of the nation and the people of Jammu and Kashmir that Article 370 was revoked, there cannot be guarantees that can be given that the wave will turn in favor of a political party because of a decision of such large magnitude that was made. And like I said, it's a transition that happens over the course of years.
No, absolutely. Any step taken by government in the interest of the public is going to affect the public mood. But that apart, to whom they vote for, that's an absolutely different matter. But talking on the professional front, it is absolutely necessary that with the improved situation, we have to go for dilution of CI, counterinsurgency grid, and we have to go for the dilution of armed forces, special powers act, area-wise and situation-wise. Monitor the situation after withdrawal of the AFSPA for some time, and reimpose if it necessary, or reimpose it in certain areas, not in all districts. For example, as I mentioned, Jammu area is almost absolutely fine for removal of AFSPA, maybe in some border districts, border areas of Poonch and Rajouri, and maybe in areas like Kulgam or some areas where we have witnessed the terrorist incidents. But in other areas, we can gradually go ahead and remove the AFSPA and also go for dilution force.
Okay, fair enough. Fair enough.
I want to make a point
what I wanted to point out over here, and Gigi Dwivedi, quickly, a quick response from you before I wrap this up about the question that I'm raising. If the BJP were not to win constituencies in the Lok Sabha election from Jammu and Kashmir and Ladakh, would this be reflective of the people's mood in not, quote unquote, not accepting revocation of Article 370 from Jammu and Kashmir? Well, and if it is interpreted this way by political parties, would it be wrong to do so?
Well, Megha, I think if you take the political assessment, it will not be based just on Article 370. That will be one of the factors. There are a number of larger factors which come into play. How the people have benefited, what is the ground, improvement of situation, how the economically the situation has changed. There are a number of factors that will come into play. Article 370 would be one of the factors. And my point is that let the national interest come first. Political process will go on, but we need to keep the national interest prime, and therefore we need to ensure that situation in Jammu and Kashmir is handled at the national level. The political dispensations will come and go, but the nation interest should not be sacrificed. I think the political process should be secondary. The security and the well-being of the state is prime, and that's where I rest my case.
Okay.
Megha.
All right. On that note, I'm out of time. I thank all of you for joining me on the telecast. Yes, Dr. Raina wants to quickly make a comment. Yeah.
Going to be a battle of narratives, a strong battle of narratives between BJP's success and the regional parties. You see, we are seeing for the first time a national political parties making it, at least Kashmir, in a big way. Earlier, we have seen the dominance of regional parties in such a manner that the national parties had a very little role to play in the valley of Kashmir. Therefore, today, BJP is rising on the crest of its popularity, on the crest of its successes. See, Mr. Amit Shah made a statement.
Yes, absolutely. But coming to brass tacks, I'm saying, should a political win or a failure of the BJP in being able to win the Lok Sabha election, or for that matter an assembly election that is expected over the months in Jammu and Kashmir, then translate into the good governance that the government of India has done by way of making the decisions and transforming the way Jammu and Kashmir operates.
We have to understand this statement from the perspective, because it's going to lay ground for the state elections, because BJP is eyeing more for state elections, because there are so many things involved. BJP, as they said, that we are going to hold elections before September as demanded by the Supreme Court of India. We are going to restore the statehood. Therefore, I see this statement more in terms of restoring statehood for Kashmir, more in terms of setting the tone for the state elections, because you have to understand two things. BJP's presence there, in the organizational presence in the valley, has gone many-fold, number one. And number two, BJP is visible almost every corner of the valley of Kashmir.
Okay, all right. Fair enough. Obviously, at this point in time, you sounding like a BJP spokesperson. That's not where I wanted to take the conversation. But thank you all for joining me on the telecast and wanting to have a larger conversation with me on this very important, pertinent subject.
For more such videos, subscribe to the NewsX YouTube channel, hit the bell icon.